Hypertension really is truly the one and only gold mine, so to speak, for VA disability, and there are 4 reasons. One is going to be secondaries from medication. So yes, medication for hypertension is probably going to put you at 0%, which absolutely sucks, both for VA disability and for healthcare. Hypertension is something that you really don't want. However, the medication does lead to a causative relationship for urinary conditions. I'll talk on that briefly. The other 3 reasons are your quasi-presumptives, and this is really where you start seeing secondaries on secondaries on secondaries, and in the most severe cases for healthcare reasons, not good at all. I know a lot about hypertension, not because I want to, but because I have to, right? That's a little personal story there. We won't really dive into, but those 3 quasi-presumptives are going to be hardening of the kidneys, strokes, and heart conditions. And so that's what we're going to talk about, is how can a hypertension rating at 0% lead to a true 100%. And at a minimum, at a bare minimum, if you're taking medication for hypertension, yes, you can increase your overall rating. It's actually super easy to do. It's one of the easiest secondaries, and that is going to be urinary conditions. So for instance, medication for hypertension is used to flush your system out, okay? Used for many things, but that's what it does. And what that means for our day-to-day life is we use the restroom. The most common secondary urinary condition for hypertension is urinary frequency, meaning how many times do you use the restroom. There's criteria for 10, 20, and 40% for daytime restroom use. You're going to have to go and look up specifically what the daytime use is, but I can tell you a very, very common 40% rating secondary, even on a hypertension rating at 0%. So hypertension 0%, secondary urinary frequency at 40% is for those who use the restroom 5 times or more during the night, which is extremely common for people on diuretics, on hypertension medication, from being a child all the way to being adult. They have to use the restroom more than normal people. Why? Because of medication, and that is the easiest secondary to be service connected. Now, I've spoken a lot on that before, so I'm gonna table that, and below in the pinned comments, I'm gonna have a whole video dedicated to urinary frequency, but I wanna move on to the 3 quasi-presumptives. And before we do that, hypertension that leads to strokes and hardening of the kidney and heart conditions can also lead to things like anxiety and migraines and GI tract issues like IBS. And so all of these are fairly simple, relatively speaking, to secondary conditions, fairly simple to connect to hypertension. Hypertension is a very, very serious condition, and I want to transfer over to the kidneys conditions, okay? So hypertension can and probably, like, it's likely to lead to kidney conditions, and if that happens from your kidneys, your kidneys can rate SMCKs. There's various diseases on how that can be rated, but your kidney condition can also develop liver diseases. It can develop GI tract issues. It can develop more heart conditions, and in the worst cases, you'll see kidney conditions and hypertension that require dialysis. And now you're getting blood transfusions, and you're on the wait list for a kidney transplant, and that is way more common than you think it is, and that's a very sad reality, especially for our Vietnam era folks with hypertension due to Agent Orange, which is presumptive, by the way. You also have these quasi-presumptive secondaries, okay? Quasi meaning it kind of is presumptive, it's kind of not. All you need to do, what that means to us as veterans, is get the current diagnosis for any of those: strokes, heart conditions, or hardening of the kidneys. And these diagnoses would be very easy to get if you have those. Submit the secondary claim, and it's going to be service connected. Basically, that's what quasi-presumptive means. So I truly mean it, that hypertension is probably, in my opinion, it is the most underrated and undervalued VA claim that exists right now, because people see hypertension, and even if they would rate 0%, veterans are, it's 0%, so who cares? And they're reluctant to submit that claim because it only rates 0%, which does make sense from a face value perspective. But once you look behind the curtain and you see, hey, I am rated 0% service connected because of my medication. Well, if this medication causes me to use the restroom 5 times during the night, that is 40% right there, clear as day, in 38 CFR. Get those symptoms documented, get a current diagnosis, speak with your healthcare team, do a statement that reflects that conversation with your healthcare team, that you use the restroom that many nights or that many times per night. Boom, 40% right there. Super easy, very, very common. And that we didn't even dabble into things like diabetes and what diabetes can cause, and those secondaries on secondaries on secondaries. And then of course, in the worst cases, you have your conditions that do lead to death, which absolutely sucks. And just to give you some frame of mind here, let's say you have a veteran who is only rated for hypertension at 0%, nothing else. So you have a Vietnam veteran who is exposed to Agent Orange, for some reason didn't want to claim PTSD because of pride. They didn't want to claim this, they didn't want to claim that, but they claimed hypertension because of the PACT Act, which is good, kind of, right? So they're only rated for hypertension at 0%. Let's say that Vietnam veteran dies, right? They pass away, and now their next of kin, their spouse, does a claim they do a DIC claim, dependent indemnity. That's really hard for me to say, claim, okay? Compensation claim. And pretty much what that looks like is, hey, this veteran died due to a heart condition or kidney condition or a stroke. Boom, service connected, boom, DIC benefits for that dependent, which is huge, okay? It is good in a sense of anything that helps. It's also bad in a too little too late type of mindset, which I totally agree with. And just food for thought, right? I always try to remind myself that the reason we have the PACT, we meaning post 9/11, have the PACT Act today is on the backs and on the deaths of the Vietnam era veterans. Without a doubt, there's not a shadow of a doubt in my mind. So just if you are a Vietnam veteran, seriously, thank you for your service, and thank you for the PACT Act. It's because of you that we have what we have today. And if you made it to the end and you're wondering why I'm in my car, I got some serious things going on that I'm not going to share to the public, but just know it's very serious. I'm going to do my best to maintain YouTube videos here from my car for the foreseeable future. Okay, so I'll be diddly-daddling with that, but if you are the prayer type, I'm definitely asking for prayers. Just know that the situation is pretty serious. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be recording in my car. So thank you very much to those who made it to the end, and until next time.